Good morning, everybody. Again, we're going to go through the laying out of the dimensions of the face. I'm just jumping the gun a little bit here to speed things up, so I put the eyes, the nose, and the mouth in. And so we're going to figure out how it is. We're going to put figure out where the outline facial structure of his head goes. So once again, you've been doing this quite a bit now, and so we're just doing measurements, regular measurements for the different dimensions. Looks like I already put one in there. So I'm really, once again, this is a little bit more challenging than the ones I've given you before in class, because if you notice his face is, looking at him, turned a little to the right. So it's not a straight dead-on look. So what used to be simple measurements from here to here, and it'd be the same as from here to here, no longer apply. So we're still measuring, but we got to be a little bit more careful today. So I'm just going to jump into this. So I'm measuring from the inside, the outside of the eye to the hairline area, and it looks to me like it goes from the inside here to right about there on his eye. So I'll come over onto the drawing area. Now you can't, once again, you can't really see what I'm doing. I'm double checking. That is the outside of it. Whoops. That is the outside of right in here. And that ear comes out a little bit further than that. Now on the other side, I'm going to check the measurement for here, and also to the outside of the ear. So I'll quick check that. And it's not quite. It's about from here to here. So I'll get that measurement. And don't forget, double check these things. Don't do it once and assume it's correct. Make a couple, do a couple of them. And make the outside of the ear, double check that one, see where we're at. Back over to my drawing area. Looks to be about the right spot for it. And my my pen tends to draw a little bit as I'm doing measurements there. So now we kind of have the outside areas. We know where. We know the outside of his hairline, or outside of the hairline, outside of his ear. We're going to do just kind of a visual angle. So if you look, it's right across from his eyebrow. So we're going to do it about like that. And here's a special case. You can see that angle is a pretty stark downward angle. The ear. Can't really see the other side of this down part of his ear over here. It kind of folds right into kind of disappears behind the cheek. But this one is obviously much more pronounced. So we're just kind of eyeballing that here. Give or take right about in there. Now we'll find out the bottom of his chin. And so obviously we're just going to, for me, there's several ways of doing this, measuring from the bottom of the nose to the chin and then matching it up to the eyes. So let's see what happens if I do that. And this is about the dimension. Let's see if I come here. Now I'm going to double check it with the lip to that. Now he's got a mustache in there that kind of does a little bit of a throw for measurements. Actually getting two different kinds here. That didn't work out right. Let's try that one more time. Yeah, a little bit longer. There we go. There we go. That is definitely the dimension. So if you check from the lips to the bottom of the chin and compare it for your eyes, and then come back and check from the bottom of the nose to the chin, and then double check that measurement. All of a sudden you're really just double checking. If they don't match up, you know you've got something you've got a measurement that's not right. So anyway, now we're going to go from here to the bottom of his hairline. So I'm just going to quick measure it, and since it's so long, you don't just use eyes. I'm going across I'm going across almost his whole face. So it's from here to about here is the distance to the bottom of his hairline. So get that dimension in here, and then then the dimension to the top of his head. And I don't want to go from here to here. You can use that later, but I'm going more from the eye plane all the way up to the top. So, and this is a long one. It goes all the way from here all the way to here. So I'm just double checking. Yep. So I'm double checking that, and it goes all the way up to here. So one of the things we noticed in class is that looks like a long way up to the top of even the other drawing that we are working on. And this likewise, it looks like the top of his hair is way up there. So anyway, but you have to trust your measurements. At this point, you just have to trust your measurements. So once again, we're going to start drawing in creating the shapes. So I'm just going to put in a little bit of a hair here. And now here's where we start transferring angles from the reference over to the drawing. So we know where this is here, and we know where this is here. So we're really going to be watching this angle in here coming off his ear. So we're going to make sure we get that one in here. And so to do that, I'll grab this ruler. Not so much a ruler, but just really a guideline. And this is how I would visually do it, but I'm demonstrating with the tools here. Okay. So that's showing generally this line over here. And then we're going to do this one over here, this side of his face. As you can see, it's coming right off his ear just before it gets to that angle. Right about in here. Then obviously the jaw. Now these are just general lines. Obviously when we connect the lines, we're going to have to add all these nice little angles. So one of the things, if you're uncertain about the distance from here to here, the actual thickness of his jaw, then you might feel more comfortable measuring it. So here, I'll just do a quick measurement for you, make sure we're in the right place. And that works out nice because that is 1 eye width. Oops. One eye width out. Double check that. A little wide. So I'll bring this back on here. So we know now that that angle is right about in here. Okay, so what we've just put in place here is this angle is right here. This angle is roughly this one, and we know that we've got this chin here. Now the last one we're going to do is this one right here. So I'll bring this over here. The computer seems to be acting up a little slow right now, so we're just measuring there. Just going to put that in place. I'm just going to eyeball that a little bit. Obviously, you can measure that if you'd like. You're certainly able to measure that if need be. Okay, we'll close that out. Now, all these other angles up here, you can also do, like this hairline. That's an angle that you can kind of put in there if you'd like. These are all kind of rounded. They're a little bit more tricky than the regular ones, but here in his hairline, obviously angles here that can be transferred if you want, if you feel comfortable about it up here. And so I'm going to, for the sake of time, I'm going to just kind of speed this up a little bit. I'm just going by what I see here. I'm just going to start rounding things out and kind of choosing my angles visually on here. Okay, that ear is back here. That's the top of it. His hair comes down back here. Comes off that ear a bit. Works its way around. Things about his hair is just kind of gets lost in all of this interesting haircut. Now I look down here by his ear. It kind of just shows itself and then just disappears in his jawline. And the other thing we were talking about is he's got nice clean face here. Now keep in mind that that is a rounding, and you're going to have to just visually, oops, there we go. You're going to have to just visually use the, see how coming off here where that angle starts around here? You're going to just compare it to his mouth. So you can kind of see that a little bit. And then we're going to round that out. He does have a very narrow chin. He has got one narrow chin. And likewise on this one over here, we're going to, it does a nice rounding. You know, that doesn't really look like him, but here is where you got to be very careful. A lot of his hair does a lot of the shaping of his face. Okay. And we're just going to sketch this in real quick. And come up here. Get it where I can show you a little bit more. Really making this video a little bit longer than I intended it to be. And then when we get into, once again, next week at class, here's where we're going to start doing a little bit teaching on the, as planes come together, the plane of the hair versus the plane of the skin. It's not a really straight line here. Like, here's a straight line. This isn't. This is a fuzzy line. This is more of a straight line, but this is a more of a fuzzy line. Straighter line, straighter line. Same with over here, and then you've got fuzzy lines. Okay, and how are we going to handle that? How are we going to deal with those things? So this is kind of just your quick overview of putting the face in on the board, transferring the angles, that sort of thing. So I look at this and I tend to think he looks a little narrow-faced over here. Like I feel like I've got a little bit of some kind of measurement off a bit as opposed to what I see over here. So I'm going to double check in a little bit, but just to give you this is kind of your assignment. Work on this. Double check your angles, double check your widths, angles, 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 angles. Make sure that they line up nice and neat. Okay, that's all.